Hello, my name is Nifty Gnome and welcome to my live action bookkeeping video. This is video number 9 in the Grand Gate Gardens case study, and this video covers May week 3. So that's May 18th to May 24th, 2025. And we'll be covering other ways that the bank feed can lead us astray, the HST refund, and so much more. Check out the link below to find out how to download the documents, request a topic, or find out more about my case study project. Now, on to the bookkeeping. So I'm already logged into my Grand Gate Gardens QBO file. And let's look at the week number 3. We've got the bank feed download and the QBO files. There's only transactions in the bank this week. So I don't start with the bank feed clearing, but it's often helpful to have the bank feed in case you have any questions and you're like, how is this paid? You can just jump over to the feed to see if there's any information. So we're going to go over transactions to bank transactions. And because it's not a live real bank, we have to upload from file. And I can just pull this over, drag and drop it in, continue. And this is Canada Bank, continue, and done. All right, now let's move on to the paperwork. So I'm going to open the file with notes, and we're going to start with the charges. And there's no charges this week. Let's go to the bills. Let's go ahead and open up Gnome hardware. And we can see that Sarah gave us a note that it's wood for shelving and that it's charged to her Fender account. So we can go ahead and put this into QuickBooks. So I'm going to go new. This is a bill entry. And this is Gnome hardware. Bill date is May 21st. Bill number is XZ3311. So it's remembering what we put in last week, but this is not purchases and materials. And remember, purchases, materials, COGS, cost of goods sold, that's when the thing is being put into or a cost of creating the thing. So this is not a direct cost of creating the thing. She's making shelves. So we could put that to a few different places. One could put it maybe to property repair and maintenance. I'm going to just put this to supplies. That's another option to toss it towards. Not everybody has property repair and maintenance, and I like to have property repair and maintenance and equipment repair and maintenance and also auto repair and maintenance. So I split it into 3. But supplies is a nice catch-all for all the other little bits and pieces. So we're going to put this to supplies today, and it was $29.97. And there was HST on that. That's before tax. And we can just delete the wheelbarrow from the last bill. And you can see that brings us to $33.87 with HST of $3.90. Perfect. Save and new. And let's see what's next in the bills folder. Here we have a water bill, and we check and make sure the service address is the business address and not her personal address. And she hasn't told us how she has paid this, so we can go ahead and just put it in as a bill. One thing I find frustrating about these is because I don't know when she's paid it. I don't know if she's paid $181 or $190. We can change the bill after if she's paid $190, but I always find that a bit frustrating. But let's go ahead and put this one into QuickBooks. It is Townville PWB, that's just what I've noticed. They get called for the public utilities, water, and so on and so forth. And the date of this bill is, and we can see that the billing date is May 21st. So May 21st is the bill date. Now there's no bill number on this utility bill, so I just go ahead and say May 21st. Again, that's an ST so that we know that it's a day and not the year. And also it's a Naomi thing. I just find it takes me a fraction of a second quicker to be able to see the history of this vendor and see all of the bill like when we got them. It's just a fraction of a second quicker. It's a Naomi thing, but you don't have to do that. And then this is utilities. And the amount is $181.48, but notice that there's no HST. So there's no HST on water, So let's make sure that we say that this is 181.48 and that it is exempt from HST. And we can just go ahead and hit save and close because it is the last bill in there. Let's see what is next in our week number 3. Invoices are next, and there are 3 invoices for us to enter, so let's go ahead and pop those in. First one here is 1008 Mike Cheque on 123 Testing Street. So let's go ahead. We're going to go new invoice, and the customer is Mike Cheque. Save. And if we scroll over, so it is garden design and installation and invoice 1008, and that's the next in line. Perfect. Usually the invoice number is actually just over here. And we can move this over a bit. And we're going to say this is garden installation and design, and that's $955 plus HST, $1079.15. Excellent. We're going to go save and new, enter the next one. Next one is invoice 1009. And this one is from Helen Back, Brimstone Avenue, 1009. Let's go ahead and put this one in. So Helen Back. Save. And the date was May 21 and 1009. It was garden installation and $500 plus HST, $565. Save and new. On to the next. We've got one more. It is 1010. And this one is for Eileen Dover on Fell Court. So let's go ahead and put Eileen Dover. And her date was 5/23. And this was garden installation and design, also $500 plus HST, $565. And we're going to go save and close because that is the last invoice in the folder. And let us see what is next. So backing up, we've got deposits. And we can see that there's actually 4 deposits here. And before we enter these deposits, I want to show what the bank feed looks like first. So let's just see, is there anything else? Is there any payroll? Nope, no payroll. And is there any statements? Nope. So all we have left right now is discussing these deposits and what the bank feed looks like. So let's go over to the bank feed here. So I'm in Canada Bank checking on the bank transaction feeds. So before we start matching, I always like to remind the user that the date, that's coming from the bank, description coming from the bank, amount in spent or received coming from the bank. But in the middle here, this payee, category, and tax, that is all QuickBooks just guessing. So don't let your subconscious start clicking things that it shouldn't be clicking. Don't get click happy. So right here, this first one, a check cleared. And QuickBooks thinks that it's Funky Gifts Wholesale, and it says a bill payment. And we numbered that bill payment 016, and the bank info says 016. And it's the same amount. So even though it cleared a few days after, we've got a high degree of certainty that this bank feed info line right here should be married to the QuickBooks transaction. So we can go ahead and match that. Next, we have this branch deposit. We haven't entered that in yet. That's in the deposit screen, so we're going to leave it. We have this e-transfer auto deposit, and it says Barb Dwyer here. Remember, this is QuickBooks guessing. Like, it just thinks it's Barb. So don't let the bank feed trick you. Let's expand it. It's actually found 4 separate matches. And you can see sometimes it is true, sometimes the bank feed can tell us down here the email that it came from, but not always. It just varies from bank to bank and account to account. I've found no consistency. But right now, we haven't entered any payments. All of these invoices are unpaid. You can tell because it says open balance. And it's just guessing that it's Barb because at this point in time, Barb happens to be at the top. But we don't know that this is Barb. We haven't entered any of that deposit information yet. And so when it says match, we're not actually matching this bank deposit to an invoice. If we hit match when it says open balance, we're using the shortcut way to add an invoice payment and then marrying and matching the bank feed info line to that newly created payment. I wish it said add payment and match, but sometimes it offers up actual payments to match to, so it's probably why it doesn't say add and match, but that is something that not everybody is aware of. So if I just went ahead and matched this right now, that invoice 1004, I'm just looking at the search, now has a payment added that we didn't add, and that payment now has the bank feed info line matched to it. So we did not enter this payment from the source documents. We entered it from the bank feed without really knowing. And actually, this is not Barb Dwyer. So that is something that happens quite often. I'm going to go over to categorized and I'm going to hit undo. And remember, this undo undoes whatever the bank feed shortcut way did. So if we had matched to an existing bank payment, it would only unmarry and unmatch the bank feed info line from the QuickBooks transaction. But because we added a bill payment the shortcut way with the bank feed, this undo is going to delete that payment that it created. So if I come over here now and go back, you can see that this Barb Dwyer invoice is now unpaid again. There's no bill payment entered because I undid what the bank feed shortcut way did. So let's move down the list. We can see that there's a mobile check deposit for $1079.15, and we have an invoice for $1079.15. So QuickBooks again thinks that this mobile check deposit is for the Mike check invoice. Notice it says open balance. You want to be very careful when you're bank feed matching to open balances because you don't actually know if that mobile check deposit really was from Mike check. And actually, we shall see from the deposit information in that folder that actually isn't from Mike Check. And it's not offering us up anybody else's invoices. And if we were to look at the accounts receivable right now, let's go take a look. I'm going to go duplicate and I'm going to go over to the reports and I'm going to go open invoices. We can see that actually Barb Dwyer owes us $1079.15 also for two separate invoices, and the QuickBooks default match cannot see that. Now it would maybe be able to find that if we say find other matches. It will then dig a little deeper and maybe find that Barb owes these two and suggest that as one of the options. But again, you can use it to sort of look around, but I don't add any transactions from find other matches. Because as we saw last week, if you have one bill payment paying multiple bills or one client payment paying multiple invoices, what it's going to do, instead of doing one payment, it's going to do a payment for each and every bill, which doesn't represent what actually is going on in the bank transactions. So going back to what I was actually making a point about here is I'm continually saying, don't get click happy. The bank feed can trick you, right? This is what I'm saying. You feel super confident. Oh, somebody gave me a check and look, it is deposited on the date of Mike Check's invoice, same day. It's gotta be that. And there's no definitive proof here. It just says that a check was deposited. And we might not then think to go the extra step to look in a little further. We want to click this. We want to say match. And another thing that I've noticed is once you've entered something into the bookkeeping, everybody else assumes that it's truth. Oh, so Mike did pay us on May 21st. No, Mike didn't. There's no definitive proof, but because it's in the bookkeeping, people tend to believe it. So this is the danger of the bank feed. And as long as you're aware of it and aware of the risks that you're taking, the bank feed can be super powerful. But as you can see, it can also lead to chaos. Don't get click happy, even though you feel really sure. There's no actual proof here. It just said that there's a check deposited, that this mobile check deposit is for Mike for invoice 1008. To reiterate, notice that it says open balance. This invoice we have not entered a payment towards. That is why I say that it is much better to enter things first from source documents and then match on the bank feed. And this will increase, even though it feels inefficient, that you should be able to do more from that bank feed, it actually is more efficient because there's less cleanup and confusion, and it makes your bookkeeping much more accurate. What else does this bank feed have for us? We've got the GST HST refund, and we've got another branch deposit. So before we go ahead and put in the GST HST refund, let's go ahead now and put in the actual paperwork for the payments and deposits, come back to the bank feed and see what it looks like after we've put these in. The first one up here is a deposit slip. Let's see. And we can see it's combined deposit. Claire has paid for invoice 1006. Felix has only paid half of his invoice, and there's some register cash going into the bank at the same time. So this is a fun one. Even though Sarah did not tell us about these payments, she did communicate them to us via the deposit slip, so that is useful. Now, I don't know when Claire paid. It could be any date between her invoice date and May 19th. So sometimes that's why the check is useful, but we can just go ahead and assume May 19th. So we're going to go new, and in the customer columns, we're going to say receive payment. And if we didn't have the name, we do, but we could always say find by invoice number. So 1006, for example, find, and it pulls up Claire, and the payment date is May 19th. And the reference number, I'm just going to say check 321. I find that that's very useful for troubleshooting. And this is a combined deposit, so we're not going to deposit directly to Canada Bank checking. 565 did not go into the bank on May 19th from this source of incomes. This is a combined deposit, so we put this to undeposited funds, and it's checked off all of it, and 565 was paid, so we're going to go save and new. Next, we're going to go and put in Felix cited. We could also just type in cited if we only see the last name. And we can see it's check number 724. I'm actually going to say check number 724 like this. Deposit to undeposited funds. And he's only actually paid half. So we can do a half payment of $644.10 right here. And then we can go save and close, because those are the only two customer payments on this deposit slip. Next, we have to add the register cash. So the register cash is related to store sales, but we don't know what was sold, right? We don't know what the HST collected on those sales were. And so we're not going to know that until the end of the month, next week, when we have the monthly sales. Some people do enter sales in weekly as well, so that's an option. But in this case study, we're going to see what the monthly store sales are. And that monthly store sales report is going to say, and this much was paid by cash, and this much was paid by debit, and this much was paid by gift card, or what have you. So there's not enough information here to say that it's sales. We don't know what the breakdown of that is. And so because it's not going to be an invoice payment right now, we're going to actually do the add funds section of the combined deposit with this register cash. So let's go ahead and put this in. We're going to go new bank deposit. And it's Canada Bank checking on May 19th. We're going to check off all of the checks that are in transit. So this one and this one, that adds up to 1209.10, which over here, 1209.10. And there's register cash of 3442.83, and we can put that in down here. I've mentioned this before, I will say it again, never put in revenue sales down here. You want to use the invoice interface and payments interface, or even sales receipt interface, right? The add funds to this deposit, this is what it's used for. This is from register cash. This is from store sales. And we can even say store sales as the customer if we'd like. Make sure it says customer and we'll hit save. Register cash, that is a bank type GL account on the balance sheet. And we can just put in that the amount is 3442.83. 3442.83. And because right now we're not putting in any sales revenue, this is out of scope. This is out of scope. This has nothing to do with GST, HST. We don't want this on our GST, HST filing tool later totals. And we'll talk about that more when we file the HST for the period, and I have covered it in earlier videos. So now that we've clicked off both of these for the check total, and now we have the cash other funds total, that makes this 4651.93 and 4651.93. That is the total of the deposit. We can go save and close. Next, let's take a look and see that we have a mobile check deposited that is noted as deposited. We don't see when it was deposited, so let's take a quick peek at that bank feed. See how the check was written May 21st? And we do have the mobile check deposit on May 21st for $1079.15. And right now, QuickBooks thinks it's Mike, but it's not. So let's go ahead. We can enter Barb's payment based on this check. So I'm going to go to New, and under the Customers Receive Payment, let's put in Barb Dwyer. And we'll say that the payment date was the 21st, and it was check number 007. Now, I'm not going to put this to undeposited funds. It's a mobile check deposit. It went right to the bank. We don't have to use that bank deposit screen because it's not a combined deposit. And if we check off all of the invoices she owes, sure enough, it comes to $1079.15. And I'm going to go save and close. Just a quick peek, I'm going to show you now under this 1079, now it's offering us two options. One is a payment it wants to match to, and one is an unpaid invoice. So we can feel much more confident knowing we've entered a payment for this date from this person, so we can much more confidently match that when we get to the bank feed clearing. This is why we enter the source documents and don't trust the bank feed too much. Before we do the bank feed clearing, let's put in the rest of the paperwork. Here's an e-transfer deposited. And we can see that Helen sent $565 for invoice 1009. So let's go ahead. We're going to go New, Receive Payment from Helen. We could also go to Helen's customer transactions, find the invoice, and add payment that way. This is for 1009. What was the date? Also May 21st. Busy day. And we'll just say e-transfer right here. Again, directly to the checking account. We don't have to use undeposited funds. It's not a combined deposit. And it's for the full amount. It says $565 right here. So we can go Save and New because there is another deposit slip. Let's see, this May 23rd deposit. Oh, it's actually just register cash. So that Save and New was not needed. Let's close this, close this. So there are actually two ways to enter this deposit. We could do it the big screen way, New Bank Deposit, but we can enter a bank deposit the shortcut way as long as we're careful. So let's start with this bank feed clearing now that we've got these entered. And let's start with this bank deposit of register cash. You can see it's register cash, 2424.70 on May 23rd. And it's just cash. And I'm going to show you what it looks like the shortcut way and the big screen way. So here it is. You can see that QuickBooks really wants to say it's Chris Bacon, because the last time there was a branch deposit or a payment, I guess it was from Chris Bacon, and it really wants to say landscaping income, and it really wants to say HST. And I've seen double entered income because of this. That was covered in a previous video. But let's go ahead and put this in actually. So it is a deposit. It's not from Chris, it's from store sales, right? And the category is not landscaping income, it's register cash. And it's out of scope because it's register cash. And we can go ahead and click add. So that is the shortcut way. And I'll show you what we just entered. Look at the search and we can see that the most recent thing that was entered was this deposit. And you can see there are no checks up at the top available for deposit. It's just the funds of the store sales. And I'll make this a bit bigger. You can see store sales, description, bank deposit, amount out of scope for sales. Now, if we had said 0 rated for sales, that would add this to our GST HST return line 101, sales and revenue. We'll review that at the end of the quarter. But just as a heads up, this has to be out of scope. And a lot of times, especially when entering from the bank feed, I notice that people forget that this needs to be out of scope. So let's go ahead and close that. I didn't change anything about it. And let's continue with our bank feed clearing. So we put this deposit in together just now, May 19th, nice and easy. We can match that. And here's this e-transfer deposit, and you can see because we've gone ahead and entered the payment source documents and then come to the bank feed, we can now do this much more confidently. Is this 565 e-transfer with no name in the bank feed info from Helen or Eileen? Well, Eileen does not have a payment attached to this invoice. If we selected this and said match, QuickBooks would first add the payment and then match the bank feed info line to that newly created transaction. We don't want to do that. So because we've entered the payment already, you can see that it's not going to actually add any QuickBooks transactions here. It's just going to marry the bank feed info line to that payment transaction that we added. And so I feel confident that this is actually what the 565 is. So when you are clearing the bank feed, just note that if it says open balance, you're not matching to an existing transaction. The bank feed is going to add a payment and then match to it. All right? So let's go ahead and hit match. And the same thing is happening here with this mobile check deposit. We've got the open balance for Mike for that invoice, but we've also got the check payment. And because we've entered the payment, we have a high degree of certainty that this is actually what this 1079.15 is, and we can go ahead and hit match. So there are some of the issues with adding deposits and payments via the bank feed. Next, we're going to look at the GST refund that we received. Now, at this point, new QBO users are like, oh, that's the refund, and they try to enter it from the bank feed. That's one of the problems with being too bank feed centric, is that users really feel that they can do everything from the bank feed, but you cannot. I've seen a lot of users at this point just simply say, oh, well, this is from CRA. And yes, GST, HST suspense, that's where the filing went to. So this is going to offset that in the GST, HST suspense balance sheet. And this is out of scope. They think that they can go ahead and click add. So this is wrong. Don't do that. And I'm going to show you why it's wrong. So now let's go over to reports. We're going to go to balance sheet, and I'm just going to bump that to the end of this week. And if we come and take a look at the suspense, we think we're good, right? I'm going to open that up. And we feel, oh, we put it to the right spot because when we filed it, it went to suspense, and now we're getting the refund from Canada. It goes to suspense. So it all feels great. But what we've actually done is if we go over to the taxes, we can see that in the tax module, it doesn't think we've received that refund. Okay, so so the GST HST payments and GST HST refunds, we cannot enter from the bank feed, even though it feels like we can, because we're going to put our GST HST filing module out of whack. Okay, so let's go ahead and undo that deposit that we just put in. This is the big screen thing that we just did the shortcut way. I'm going to go more, delete, yes. Then I can come down here, and this is where I hit record refund or record payment, depending on the scenario situation. And we're going to refund that to the Canada Bank checking, and that was the 21st. So I'm going to hit record refund. Now we can see that this has been refunded. It's happy. And if we go over back to the bank transactions, we can see we have that tax payment that we can now match to and clear that off of the bank feed. So you cannot do everything from the bank feed. A lot of people feel that you can. You've got to do combined deposits with your bank deposit screen, but you also need to do your GST HST payments and also your payroll tax payments. So that's coming up next month. And that needs to be done through the modules themselves and then matched only in the bank feed. So this week really focused on the bank feed and combined deposits and customer payments. I really hope that you found this information helpful in the building, growth, and success of the business that you are working in and on. Now, if you're interested in downloading these case study documents from this video or previous videos, or if you have any special requests for topics that you'd like me to cover in upcoming weeks, you can find out more information in the link below. If you found this video useful, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I'm also on Instagram at BeThatBusiness, and I'm at Nifty Gnome on Twitch and TikTok. And you can find resources and courses about running a Canadian business on my website, naomiwilkins.ca. I love making business make sense. The video today was recorded in beautiful Newcastle, Ontario. Thanks so much for watching, and get out there and be that business that thrives.